Hello and welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. This one is going to be all about using the bench boost in game week 1. So it's a popular strategy, it's pretty popular every year, but I think it's even better this year. So first I'll cover why I think it's a good idea, and then we'll get into the draft that I've put together for a game week 1 bench boost. So let's get into it. Okay, so the reason that it's a popular strategy every year or most years is because obviously when we usually get one bench boost, we pretty much have to plan a load of chips around it. Most people will wait for a double game week, which there aren't many of anymore, but will wait for a double game week. They'll use their free hit in the blank week. They'll use their wild card to set up for the bench boost, and then they'll use the bench boost. So it takes pretty much 2 or 3 chips to get set up for the bench boost, which could potentially be a bit of a waste of these chips really. And one other reason why it is kind of good is that you can get it out of the way in game week 1, and then you can use your wild card just to attack fixtures or attack doubles in a better way without having to carry this massive bench or put loads of money on your bench and then carry that through. Now this year that is kind of an even better strategy, given that we get 2 of each chip. So we'll get 2 bench boosts for starters. We'll also get 2 free hits, 2 wildcards, 2 triple captains, obviously. But what this does mean is that there'll be less double game weeks where we can use chips. So we saw last season, there's less double game weeks than in previous years. Unless there's other postponements and cancellations, then there won't be loads of double game weeks this season either. So we can only use one of these bench boosts in the double, and the doubles typically happen at the end of the season when we use our second bench boost. So there may not be a double game week for us to use the first bench boost, which is why it's potentially a really good idea to use it early. The drawbacks for this though, however, are that we don't particularly have much data at the beginning of the season. So minutes wise, we can look at pre-season games obviously. Unless you pick some really nailed players, then you could be looking at a bench boost where not all of your players start, especially if you're going for some transferred players like João Pedro or like Kudos, someone like that, or even any new signings from abroad. If you're going to use it in game week 1, you probably do have to go with some very nailed players. And that's kind of what I've tried to do in this draft. So now that I've kind of given good reasons for the chip, and to be honest, for my team, I'm thinking about using it in game week 1 myself. Obviously, it does have the drawbacks that I mentioned, and some of the kind of punts that you might want to pick, you can't really do that if you're bench boosting. But let's see the team that I've put together anyway, and you'll see that you can actually get a pretty good team with some money on the bench as well. Starting off with the goalkeepers then, if you've watched my first 2 videos, you'll know that I quite like Kelleher from Brentford as a nice 4.5 option. You'll also know that I don't like spending money on the goalkeeper position. I tend to just go over 4.5 million starter and then a 4 million on the bench. Because we're bench boosting, I thought I'd put a tiny bit more money into that bench goalkeeper and go over Bruggen. However, Carl Darlow might be an option from Leeds at 4 million. If they don't sign another goalkeeper, then it looks like he may be first choice to start the season. And Leeds' fixture in game week 1 is Everton at home, which isn't too bad. So there is a world where you could bench boost with a 4 million goalkeeper in game week 1. We will have to watch pre-season, of course, for that, but I do kind of like these 2. Another option from the 4.5 kind of pool of goalkeepers is Areola. Now, West Ham play Sunderland away, which is obviously a pretty good fixture in game week 1. So if you wanted to swap out one of these guys for Areola, then that would also be quite a good play. I just think that these 2 might be a little bit better long term. That's the only reason I've gone for it. You've also, as you can see at the top left, got 0.5 million in the bank on this draft. I'll talk about where I think that money could be used as well as we go through. But yeah, I'd probably go with 2 4.5 million goalkeepers, or a 4.5 and a 4 million one. Right, on to defenders now. And again, these are players that I've talked about in other videos already. I don't think you need to do too much different with the defence. I mean, in the other drafts that I've already done on the page, I go with two 4.5s, two 6 millions, and then the final defender is a 4 million one. The only change here is that fifth defender is a 4.5 million one. So we've got Gvardiol. These two, again, these are kind of more, they're more almost placeholders or just looking at price points more than anything. There's loads of good defenders at 6 million. So there's Gabriel, Gvardiol, there's Ait-Nouri, there's Van Dijk, there's Saliba, there's plenty of others. I think Cucurella's 6 million as well. Frimpong, Kirkes, there's loads. I think it's more of a structure thing. I'd go with two 6 million defenders. Then I'd definitely have Udogie if I was bench boosting. Burnley at home is an unbelievable fixture to start with. And Udogie I just think is too cheap at 4.5 million. I think that he should have been 5 million, to be honest, especially given that Porro is 5.5. I don't think that Porro is a whole million better than Udogie is. So I do think that Udogie is just at a really good price. So I'll be going with him. I'd definitely be going with Wan-Bissaka. Sunderland away, as I mentioned when I was talking about Areola. There is an option where you could go with Juve, the other side, who is the left wing back that West Ham have just bought. I do just want to see some more pre-season minutes for Juve. I mean, for wing back wise, West Ham have got a pretty good setup right now. So Wan-Bissaka was obviously brilliant last season. Just bought Kyle Walker-Peters, who could also probably play in that right wing back position with maybe Wan-Bissaka as right centre back. Then left wing back, they've got Juve, who has really good numbers last season, really attacking. So he could be a bargain at 4.5 million. There's also Ollie Scholes, who played quite a lot last season. Emerson looks like he's probably going, but got a very nice setup. You could even, if you really wanted to kind of go for it, you could go with Wan-Bissaka and Juve instead of Konza. I do think Konza's really, really good, especially given these new defensive contribution points we're getting this season. I would have put Konza at 5 million, I think, but he's at 4.5. Here, this depends how aggressive you want to be on bench boost. You could literally go all out for game week 1 and just pick the players with the best fixtures. However, Konza is a bit more of a long-term pick. He's got good fixtures over the next kind of 6-7 game weeks. So you are losing maybe a little bit in game week 1, but you are then gaining long-term. Another 4.5 option that you could look at as well is De Kuyper from Brighton. Looks like Estupinian has now left Brighton, and De Kuyper, I don't know how you say his name, I could be absolutely butchering it. The pronunciation is probably awful. But he is a very, very capable attacking left back. So he definitely could be an option. Again, I just want to see some more pre-season minutes from him. The fixture for Brighton is obviously Fulham at home, as you can see from Verbruggen. So I do like that as an option. There's just so many good 4.5 million defenders that I think you can easily go with 3 of them. Now, let's get on to the midfielders. Onto the midfielders now, and some popular names in here. We've got Mo Salah. Bournemouth at home is the game week 1 fixture. Liverpool's fixtures aren't actually the best to start the season, but game week 1's pretty good. Bournemouth defence isn't the best. We know they're good going forward. So, I mean, Mo Salah's just the best player in the league, playing for the best team in the league. You can't really go wrong. Cole Palmer, another popular one. Crystal Palace at home isn't a bad fixture at all. Palace do tend to start seasons quite slow. So I do think that this is a nice fixture for Chelsea. Again, they're not the best defensively anyway. Going forward, they're good, but defensively not so much. I think Chelsea are going to be really good this season, and their fixtures are very nice to start the season as well. So Cole Palmer is definitely one to start with. Kudos has been in all my draft videos so far. He is probably the 1 minute's risk that I've got in this team. All of the other players are pretty set to get good minutes, but Kudos not so much. Now, I just think you have to double up or potentially triple up on Spurs at the beginning if you're bench boosting. Burnley at home is as good a fixture as you can get, and Spurs are just a pretty attacking team, or they were under Ange anyway. They're now under Thomas Frank, who at Brentford was just as attacking, created so many big chances. So hopefully we'll see the same at Spurs. Yes, the minutes may be risky, but that's kind of the beauty of bench boosting in game week 1, because it means in game week 2, game week 3, if we think that Kudos isn't going to get good minutes, then we can quite easily bench him for one of these guys sitting there. So yes, he's risky. Yes, you could change him. There's 0.5 million in the bank here, so you could move him up to a 7 million midfielder. but I just really like the fixture. Then we've got Ndiaye from Everton. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Leeds away is that fixture. Last season, he was a forward. He's now been reclassified to a midfielder. He didn't get loads of goals and assists last year, mainly because Everton in general didn't get loads of goals and assists last year. He is, however, on penalties, so that's always a plus. He, again, is pretty cheap, so that's kind of the only reason he's in here. Midfielders is a really, really tough position this year. They've priced them very, very well, because there isn't many cheap midfielder options. I mean, I'm sure a couple will kind of show themselves over the coming weeks, but at the moment it's pretty tough to choose them. The one thing that Ndiaye was good for last year was defensive contributions, so hoping that he can hit that threshold a few times. Now, another player that I'm not too sure on is Morgan Rogers on the bench. He is 7 million, and again, there's 0.5 million in the bank, so you could upgrade him to someone else. The fixture isn't incredible in Newcastle at home, but as I mentioned when I was talking about Konza, Villa's fixtures for kind of 6 or 7 game weeks, which is likely to be the amount of time we pick a team for, because it'll probably be wildcarding pretty early. Villa's fixtures are very good, very, very good. So I do kind of like starting with Rogers. Again, he's good for minutes. We know that he's probably going to play most minutes in most games. So that's the midfield 5. That is probably the position that I'm less confident on here. Ndiaye, Kudus and Rogers, I'm not that buzzing about them. What you could, I guess, do is take one of them down to like a 5.5 mid, maybe that's Caicedo, and then upgrade elsewhere. That is an option. As I say, there's money in the bank, so you can play around with it here. But that's the midfield. Let's now get onto the forwards. Onto the forwards now, and I talked about Spurs. Solanke's been in all my videos as well. I think that Solanke is a pretty no-brainer pick at the moment. I may change my mind before the deadline, but I do think that Son will get slightly less minutes this season, meaning that Solanke may get a higher share of the penalties. It's obviously Burnley at home. Spurs have good fixtures for the first 6 or 7 game weeks. He's pretty nailed to start up front. I mean, there's not a lot not to like about Solanke, and he's 7.5 million, which to me seems a little bit cheap. Then we've got Fulkrug. Now again, I've talked about him quite a lot in my recent videos. I think that Sunderland away fixture can be a place to attack in Game Week 1 bench boost. And like I mentioned with Kudus, given that you're bench boosting in Game Week 1, you'll have a strong bench. So if Fulkrug is someone you're not going to want to play in the tougher fixtures, then you can just bench him and play one like Rogers or Konza, someone like that instead. If West Ham don't sign another striker though, I do think he'll start the season with Bowen up top. He is 6 million, meaning that if you wanted to spend that 0.5 million on that position, then you could always move him up to, say, a Strand Larsen. I do like Wolves' fixtures for the first 6 or 7, however their Game Week 1 fixture isn't great. So that's the reason I've gone with Fulkrug instead of Strand Larsen. And then I've got Welbeck. I think Welbeck's going under the radar a little bit. He's not very highly owned at the moment. With João Pedro gone, he should be on penalties. He did take a penalty last season, I think it was against Wolves, when João Pedro wasn't on the pitch. He was also captain for a lot of last season. So I think he'll get good minutes. He should be on penalties. And again, I don't mind this Game Week 1 fixture with Fulham at home for Brighton. So this is the bench boost team that I'd be looking at. Again, there is some places where you could change things. You could take away Kudus as a minutes risk and go for a 7 million mid. You could get rid of the Villa boys and really attack it with maybe double West Ham defence or a cheaper midfielder and then upgrade one of the other mids. There's a couple of different options here, but I think this is a pretty nice squad and it does set you up really nicely for the next 6-7 game weeks as well. So let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking about Game Week 1 bench boost, if you've considered it, and if you have, let me know what your team is or your first draft is. But that's all for this one. If you liked the video, hit like, do subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.